Witching Hour is a festival dedicated to exploring the unknown, discussing the creative process, and presenting new work. So I feel like we're saying this in a lot of our introductions, but today kind of embodies all three of those things. Before we get started, I want to thank some of our sponsors. They really help to make the whole festival happen, as well as our individual show ticket buyers and pass holders. So thank you so much for everybody who's supporting the festival. Our media sponsors are Iowa Public Radio and the Gazette. We received some grants from our local Convention and Visitors Bureau, Think Iowa City, and ACT, Adamantine Spine Moving, Artifacts, Feed Me Weird Things, Film Scene, Goodfellow Printing, the Iowa City Downtown District, which is where you are right now, the Iowa City Public Library for sponsoring all of the free events here, Kim Schillig Realtor, Martin Construction, Midwest Ticks, Phoebe Martin Realtor, Reunion Brewery, Revival, Velvet Coat, and then we're partnering with Scope Productions on the concert tonight at Gabe's with Shredders, and the University of Iowa has been an incredible partner with us on presenting Marcelo Mena yesterday from the UI College of Engineering and the UI College of Public Policy. And then also the Iowa Women's Archives. I know that's a really long list, but like literally so many people have been working together to have all these cool ideas and put this together. So thank you for bearing with that long list. My friends, Sarah Driscoll and Betsy Rippentrop are going to be presenting All Bodies Belong, Exploring Positive Acceptance of Our Physical Selves. And I was thinking about you guys as I was attempting to dress my body this morning and change my clothes like 15 times, and thinking, what is that? What is that thing we do sometimes where we just can't even like figure out how to dress our body for the world? It ends up having like so much meaning for us. And I'm excited for you to present. Betsy is a licensed psychologist. She has her practice just right over here, right across the street. And Sarah has her yoga studio in Cedar Rapids, Breathing Room Yoga. And I'm just gonna let them get right into it.
Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So we're going to take you on a journey of embodiment today. So talking about this concept of being present and awake and alive in our bodies. So this first quote I love is James Joyce, written many years ago, about one of his characters. Mr. Duffy lived a great distance from his body. And I think this is such a great description, and really at the heart of what we want to talk about today is that so many of us are living at a great distance from our body. We're not really fully engaged or present in the body. We're going to talk about, there's many reasons for this, and hopefully start some discussion about why it's so useful for us to actually show up in a very aware and conscious way in our bodies. So there are many flags, red flags, that we have dissociated or zipped out of our bodies. And so show of hands of these next four that I'm going to talk about if you relate to it. So the first red flag that we've zipped out of our body is obsessive thinking, worry, planning, trying to figure out your day and how it's going to go. Yes, I mean, almost every one of us in the room can raise our hands. All right, second flag that we're not in our body is judgment. So there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with the world, there's something wrong with our government, right? So judgment, that's the second red flag that we're actually not in our body. Third red flag is distraction, numbing. Pint of Ben & Jerry's, bottle of wine, binge watching a TV show, right? There's like 1,000 ways in our culture now to numb out and to not actually really be here. So again, we can all raise our hands to that. All right, the last flag that we've dissociated is speed. So what I mean by that is like moving, fast, going, 1,000 things on your to-do list, not being able to stop, having, weeks on end that you're just going. I only see one person in the room with their hand up, but yes. We can all, thank you, Matt, we can all relate to all four of these things that we've dissociated from the body. So I want you to all know, first and foremost, that there's no judgment around this. We all dissociate, we all disconnect from our bodies. Most of us aren't very present, and in particular, Western culture does not support us very well in terms of being in our bodies. If you ever have traveled to Eastern cultures, there's an earthiness. There's a much more awareness and depth in the pelvis and in the legs in a different way than us. So in our Western world, we really sort of prefer our head space, right? We like to spend a lot of time up in our head thinking and analyzing and planning and figuring things out and distracting. And so our heads sort of get the primary role in our lives versus working from the neck down. We kind of forget that we have this body from the neck down. So why would we stay in the body? Right? Like this is really the core question. Like, why would we choose to do practices and be more mindful? What's the point of being present in the body? So let's talk about that. And I want to provide two perspectives. So first and foremost, I'm trained as a scientist, so I love research and data. So I want to talk about, from a scientific neuroscience perspective, why staying in the body is useful. And then, because we're actually talking a little bit about yoga today, I'm going to give you the 3,000-year-old yogic perspective about why being in the body is important. So from a scientific neuroscience perspective, why should we stay in our body? There's something that's recently been studied in about the last decade. This has sort of been a new area of research called interoception. I'm just curious, has anyone heard this word even, interoception? Okay, so several of you. Most of us know about like proprioception, right? Like where our body is in space. But this idea of interoception, even though it's been around for a long time, neuroscientists, psychologists, biologists are starting to like take note of this. And interoception is basically our ability to feel our internal body states. And what the research shows is there's a huge continuum in terms of people's abilities. There are certain people that are really tuned into their bodies and they feel their bodies. There's measures of like how interoceptive are you. And then there's other people on the other end of the spectrum that really aren't in their body at all. So if I would say to them right now, can you feel your feet on the ground? They would be like, what? What are you talking about? Right? So there is this continuum. And what the research shows is that if you're in your body, you make better decisions. Right? So if you are present and feeling your internal sensations, you will make better decisions. The other thing that's really exciting, and I think this is where the researchers are trying to figure this out, is it seems that if people are in their bodies, there's some protection against mental health issues, such as eating disorders and depression and anxiety, and even chronic pain, which is kind of interesting because if you have chronic pain, don't you usually want to numb out of the pain? Or you don't want to feel the pain, right? So you decide to leave the body. Whereas this research is suggesting that actually if we can be in the middle of our bodies, feeling it, all the sensations, we tend to do better. Less pain, less depression, less anxiety. All right, so that's the scientific reason as to why. So let's talk about now, there are 4 benefits to interoception. So I'm wanting to encourage you today to start to be more present. And these benefits are really real and will change your life potentially. So the first benefit of interoceptions is presence. So we're going to do just a brief, I'm not going to make you do yoga today per se, but I'm going to have you all stand up for a moment. And I just want you to turn to someone next to you. It might be someone that you don't even know. And just take a moment to look into their eyes and say hi. So just make some eye contact and say hi. Okay? All right. Now turn back around. I love it. People are already connecting. They're like, yes. All right, now turn back around, and we're going to really consciously get into our bodies, okay? So look down at your feet, and make sure your feet are about hip distance width apart. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about is we have very skewed ideas of our body, and so particularly for women, we feel like our hips are much wider than they really are. So if you find your frontal hip bones, which is that sort of bony protuberance at the front of your pelvis, and draw an imaginary line down, it'll intersect right at your second toe. This is hip distance width apart. So many people have to bring their feet together a little bit more. Yes? All right, then just a slight bend in the knees. So many of us unconsciously sort of lock our knees out. So bring just a nice little soft bend into the knees. Firm up the legs, so feel the muscles sort of begin to hug to the bone. Let's bring hands to the pelvis. And as you place your hands on your pelvis, press the pelvis down just a little bit, but begin to lift and rise out of the pelvis. Your spine grows taller, your chin tucks just a little bit, And allow your gaze to either be horizon level or maybe down on the floor, 5, 6 feet in front of you. Allow the shoulders to draw back, shoulders relaxing down away from the ears. Feel your feet on the floor. You're rooting the pelvis down, but you're rising up through the crown of the head. So this pose that we're holding has been heavily researched. There is a PhD at, I believe, Stanford. Her name is Amy Cuddy, and she's done a lot of research on this pose. She calls this pose power posing. And what we know is when we hold this pose for 2 minutes or longer, our testosterone goes up. So meaning we have more engagement, we're more willing to take risks and take action. And our cortisol goes down, and our cortisol is our stress hormone. It's the fight-flight hormone. And so engaging, holding this pose gives us confidence, empowerment, embodiment, interoception. All right, take a nice deep breath in. All right, now exhale. Just relax your hands to the side of the body. Now staying quiet, so staying in the body, because we can really quickly zip out of the body. So continuing to feel your feet on the earth. Now just turn again to the person you just looked into their eyes and look into their eyes again and notice if anything is different. All right, you can turn around, sit down. What did people notice? Did you notice anything different?
I thought his pupils were bigger.
His pupils were bigger. What else?
More calmness.
More calm, so you could see right away, more calm, right? What else?
Very aware of limbs, like our limbs.
You were aware of your limbs. You were aware of your body. You were in your body. Cool.
It was easier.
It was easier. I know, when we're in our bodies, things become infinitely easier. Yeah, it wasn't so uncomfortable. What else? Did anybody see that the person's eyes, there was like more light? Yeah. Yes, there was more sparkle. Okay, so this is presence. The light comes on behind our eyes, right? When we are present in our bodies, the light flips on. And you all know what it's like to have a conversation with someone when they're present with you. They're there. They're with you. They're looking at you. They're feeling you. And you also know what it's like to be with someone who's checking their phone and is off in Netherlands thinking about what's coming down the road instead of with you, right? So we give such a gift to our relationships in the world when we're present, when we're in our bodies, in the here and now, right? So this is one of the biggest benefits of embodiment or interoception is that we start to become present. We start to light up because we're here in the moment in our bodies. All right, so second benefit of interoception is agency. So what I mean by agency is our ability to make decisions. And so growing up, I was a classic waffler in terms of decision making. I had a horrible time making decisions. My older sister hated to go shopping with me because I could not make decisions. So when we're in our body, again, the research is supporting that you make good decisions, better decisions when you're in your body. So the deal with our body is that our body cannot lie to us. So does your body tell you that you're not tired when you really are? If your body is hungry, does it feel full? No. Right, so your body has no capacity to lie to you. Now, our minds, whew. My favorite quote about the mind is the mind is like a politician. It makes shit up, right? You can't trust it all the time. So we have to be really conscious that the internal mind state that's going on all the time isn't always true. Our mind is designed to create thoughts, just like our heart is designed to pump blood. And sometimes those thoughts are not actually true. But your body has an incapacity to lie to you. It can't lie to you. It's going to tell you the truth. So agency, if we're in our bodies, we make better decisions. So I want to just give you another brief sort of experiential exercise to see what it's like that your body can tell you yes or no. Your body can sort of guide you in terms of decisions. Okay, so stand up again. We're going to come back into that power pose because we know when we're in that power pose, we are starting to move into the body in a more conscious way. So the feet are hip distance width apart, the legs are firm. You're pressing the pelvis down, you're lengthening up through the spine. All right, now just allow your arms to relax down to the side of the body. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. If closing your eyes feels a little anxiety-provoking, you can just allow your gaze to soften down towards the floor. Now, as you stay in your body, feeling the feet on the floor, the arms relaxed at the side of the body, nice soft face, jawline, I want you to imagine right now that in front of you is someone who you dearly love. It's an uncomplicated love. It is an expansive love. It's someone you really appreciate and have deep gratitude for. And as you imagine this person standing right in front of you, begin to notice what happens in your body as you imagine this person standing just right directly in front of you. So as you stay in your body, what does your body feel like when you imagine this person right in front of you? All right, and then lovingly allow that image to be released. Open your eyes, and then just talk to me for a moment. What happened in your body when you imagine that person you care or love about right in front of you? What happened?
Comfort.
Comfort. What did comfort feel like in your body?
Like a lightness and relaxation.
Some lightness and relaxation. Great. What else?
I could notice tension or like building, like gravity.
You felt some gravity. Okay. What else did people notice? Yeah. Yes. So this is a classic thing that happens. Our bodies will tell us yes or no. So here's someone in front of you that you love, right? Usually what happens with the body, it's like, yes, right? So oftentimes people report that the whole body starts to sort of move forward and like, yes. Did anyone else have that experience of moving forward? You're probably like, what's going on? That's your body's answer. That's your body's yes. Right? Because it's someone we love. It's an uncomplicated person. My body, there's expansion. Yes is expansion moving towards, right? Okay, so now let's see what no feels like, okay? It's as important, yeah. So close the eyes. Just move back inward. Feel the feet underneath you. Feel your feet pressing into the earth. Keep lengthening up through the crown of the head. Shoulders draw back. And just in this place of neutrality for a moment, fully engaged with your body in this moment. Now imagine that what's right in front of you is your to-do list, everything that you know you need to get done. There's a lot on it, and it's all the things you keep putting off, all the things you keep putting on the back burner, everything that's just not getting done these days. It might be your kitchen, it might be your closets, it might be work, and just start to notice again what happens in your body. To-do list right in front of you. Now let that darn thing go. Come back to neutral. Open your eyes. What happened in your bodies? Tension, clenching. Anyone feel their buttocks clench up? Like, wah!
I actually felt a rock.
Yeah.
Total.
Yeah, and did you feel that rock back? Like, ooh, no, I don't want to deal with that right now. Yeah, so that's your body. So by the way, you can sit down. This is a very quick way to think about, yes, if my body's saying yes, I'm going to feel some expansion. I'm going to feel if I'm doing this exercise, and I've been known to do this a lot in my life, right? Am I going forward? Am I going back? Your body is going to give you some guidance. Now, what I won't recommend is that you use this tool for big questions such as, should I leave my spouse? Should I move to California? Because what tends to happen is that you start to do this. Right? You start to go back and forth because some of these big complicated questions, of course, it's complicated, right? There are benefits, there are pros, there are cons. But the point is that our body, if we're in our body, there is information, right? And if we're only from the neck up, we're just feeling part of the deal, right? Instead of really using our full being to help us get clear on what's in our best interest. All right, so those are the first two benefits. Third benefit is we just get much more able to self-regulate our emotions. Now, emotion is felt in the body. So where do you feel anger in your body? Yeah. Where do you feel depression? If you're sad and depressed, what happens? Right? You slump forward. What about anxiety? neck, shoulders. Also that butt clenching, right? When we're stressed out, unconsciously, we really clench and tuck under, like I gotta keep control over all of this. Jaw often gets really clenched during anxiety. So just sort of knowing that emotions are gonna come through. Does anyone know how long the average emotion lasts? 6 hours? Nope. It's like 90 seconds. 60 to 90 seconds. Has anyone felt anger for a decade? Right? Right? It happens. But the average emotion goes through very quick. So if we're present in our body, because your body's only in the present moment. Are you in your 16-year-old body? Do you even remember what it felt like to be in your 16-year-old body? Probably not. Right? So the body's always in the present moment, right? If you can be in your body, emotions will come through, and it'll come through, and it might not be comfortable. Most of us don't like to feel fear and anger and anxiety, but if you let that emotion come through, it will dissolve quite quickly, right? So there's something about being in the body that allows us to emotionally self-regulate much better. And then the last benefit of interoception is intuition. That sixth sense, that ability to sort of read beyond just our five senses, helps us understand, I don't know why I need to do this, but I just feel this instinct. I feel this gut response to go do this or say this or call this person. And if you are living an intuitive life, man, you're so much more tuned in to what's in your highest interest. So these are the benefits of actually consciously trying to be present in the body. So we all know it would be good. You can go to the next slide, Sarah. This is what the yogis say. So that was what science said. Very quickly, what the yogis say is that if you want to move towards a more expansive state of being, enlightenment, you have to go through the body, right? The only way we can get to more expansive states spiritually is through the body, according to the yoga tradition. And the second point here, when I learned this in one of my teachings years ago, I was really struck by the idea that our soul, from a yoga perspective, chooses the exact body we need in this lifetime, maybe with its aches and its pains and its disease and whatever else is going on in the body, for us to learn the highest lessons that we need in this lifetime. So we choose the body we need to grow in the way we need to grow in this lifetime. So this is what the yogis say. They say you have to be in your body for any kind of evolution or expansion to happen. All right, so why is it so hard? Why is it so hard? Why do we all raise our hands when I said these are the red flags of being out of the body? Well, the first thing is we hold our issues in our tissues. So any past trauma, anything that's happened in the past that we haven't dealt with, it literally gets stored in the body. And we know this also from research. So this is, there's some science behind this. The second point is that for most of us, we're body negative or body ambivalent. So there was a study done actually by Yahoo several years ago. 2,000 people were interviewed between the ages of like 13 and 65, both men and women. And they asked them, are you body positive? Are you body negative? Are you body ambivalent, meaning that you have some good days and you have some bad days? And 80% of women are body negative or body ambivalent. 80% of women. 92% of female teenagers, 92% are body ambivalent or body negative. And do you think men are much better? Some men in the back are like, nope. 60% of men are body negative or body ambivalent. So more than over half of us, I mean, basically all of us in this room, majority of us in this room, have either some negativity towards our body or ambivalent. We have some good days, we have some bad days. So one of the biggest reasons it's hard to be in the body is shame. Is we have shame around our bodies, we have shame about the size of our bodies, we have shame, and so we don't want to be in it. Or we have pain. Often pain makes us not want to be present in our body, and so we just decide to numb out. But again, if you're not in your body, you're not in the present, so you're not as alive, you're not as vitally aware, you're not as intuitive, you can't self-emotionally regulate as well, right? So one of my teachers taught, actually the safest place to be is in the body, because we're so tuned in, right? All right, let's keep going. So yoga is the great connector between the mind and the body, and it allows us, the point that I want to make on this slide, and Sarah and I are going to share our stories here in just a moment, is that yoga is one of the few disciplines, at least in my life, where I'm not in relationship to my body based on how it looks, because that's usually one of our relationships to our body is we look in the mirror and we're like, good body day, bad body day, right? Skinny jean day, no skinny jean day, right? Like we have this whole looking at ourselves and what our body looks like is how we feel about it. The other thing is how our body functions. Like if our body's functioning well that day, then we feel good about it. If our body is tired and exhausted and in pain, we feel bad about it. So those are like most of the two ways we relate to our bodies. Whereas in yoga, you are not actually judging your body or even determining if it's a good or bad body day. You're just feeling it. It's just feeling. So you're feeling your feet on the floor. You're feeling your thigh pull back. You're feeling your spine elongate. And just by being present in the body, you start to develop a kinder relationship to your body. So let's tell our stories a little bit, because I think this might shed some light. So my story is in my 20s, I hated my body, actually probably from my teen years up. And I have the disease of needing to please and the disease of perfectionism. And I learned them from my mom, for sure. And so I had an ideal, and the media is full of ideals, right, about what we should look like and how we should be. And so I was certainly, with my food, wasn't at an eating disorder, but was really careful about what was going into my mouth. And more than that, I was running like 40, 50 miles a week. And this body is actually not designed to run. So I'm 45 and I need knee replacements. My orthopedic surgeon just told me that. He's like, you're bone on bone. You have the knees of a 70-year-old. What have you been doing? And I know it's because I was trying to beat my body into submission, right? I was trying to change my body to fit some kind of ideal. There was not compassion, because if there was compassion for my body, I wouldn't have been doing that, right? Luckily, in my 20s, along the road, I found yoga. And I found it in graduate school. I was highly stressed out. There was one, this is 20 years ago, there was one yoga studio in Iowa City, and I got invited to go to a yoga class. And I got invited, ironically enough, by a classmate who was an Olympic athlete, been in the Atlanta Olympics, and she was like the most gorgeous, buff human being I'd ever seen. And I must have been so stressed out to agree to go to a physical endeavor with an Olympic athlete. I mean, to this day, I'm like, how did that ever happen? But the beauty of it is that Andrea and I were in a pose called legs up the wall. So it's a similar pose to what you see me doing here, but our legs are up a wall. And I look over at Andrea, and she's grimacing and tight and moaning. She was so muscular. And I, on the other hand, was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm made to do this, right? It was a moment of like, I've come home, wow. So my relationship to my body did not change overnight through yoga. But progressively going, I just went once a week, but progressively being in my body, feeling my body instead of judging and criticizing it, started to shift something for me. And then there was a moment in shoulder stand, which is why the picture up here is in shoulder stand. It was maybe 4 years into my practice. And I was looking up at my legs, and I've always hated my legs. My legs were too thick. They had cellulite. I didn't want to wear shorts. I had all these like beliefs about my legs. And it was in this pose, I was looking up at my legs, and I was like, oh my gosh, these legs are like really strong. These are like really great legs. Like, I'm so glad that I have these legs. It was the first time I'd ever felt that in my life in shoulder stand. And shoulder stand's an interesting pose because you're actually looking up at your feet. Unless you're doing yoga, do you ever look up at your feet? No, you always look down at your feet. So this pose already puts you in sort of an altered state because you're in a place that you never would be looking up at your feet. So I think it was that sort of slightly altered state that brought me to this insight. But from that moment forward, I was like, okay, this is the healing that I need. And so now 20 years into the future, it's not that I still don't have certain bad body days, but I'm certainly have a lot of compassion and love for my body in the way that I never did in my 20s. So yoga did heal the rift between my body and mind, and so that's probably why I'm doing what I'm doing now in my career, because I know it's got such healing capacity. So now, dear Sarah, who has a totally different story than mine, and that's why I think this is really good to have these 2 points. Then we have a couple other people that are going to tell their story today. She's going to tell you about how yoga sort of shifted her relationship to her body.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, I grew up in a house with a disabled father. And so he was in chronic pain. My mom had to lift and carry everything. My mom worked 2 jobs just to pay the bills. She worked in a factory, so she got really buff. And my dad was vulnerable. So also, as I was, like a kid, my grandmother needed both knees replaced, and that was something our whole family had to help with, help take care of them while that was going on. My grandpa lost fingers in a farming accident. My Uncle Bill was blind because of an accident with his horse. So I was seeing that bodies were meant to work hard and susceptible to injury. So because I had the use of all my limbs and had ability and agility, I felt grateful. And so I still feel grateful to that, just always thinking, I'm really grateful that I was raised in that kind of an environment, and I'm still grateful for my body. I'm strong, I have to laugh at myself when I'm looking at my ass in my yoga pants, seeing if I can see cellulite, my body, I've built my strength, I've lost it, I've built it again, I've grown a human, we adorn our bodies with our clothing, and then the anatomy of our body is truly awesome, that it all works together. Whatever works is working, So I just have to laugh when my mind starts going there and I start feeling less than, because this body's working for me. Not always and not in all ways, all the time, but it works pretty good. And so that's why when I go to yoga class and I attend, and my journey with yoga has been just being in the body and being grateful for it. So that's what I practice in my yoga practice. So that's my relationship with my body. The project, All Bodies Belong, is a project, it's just, it's a small step in the right direction. It's an ongoing photo project. My friend Heidi Eifert is the photographer, and we used her studio for it. It's an open invitation for anybody to come and get their picture taken in a professional photography studio with the lights and the background, an art director, me, and your friends cheering you on, and your yoga people around you, helping you get into the postures. I just wanted to showcase all bodies. Sometimes yoga teachers, we put together these sequences for our clients, or we might suggest a certain posture for one of our clients that needs to heal. And if you Google image search a certain yoga pose, a bunch of images of typically white women that are really thin and really fit and flawless come up, doing the pose perfectly, and usually a really advanced version of the asana, or the pose. Sometimes there's guys, but they're usually white, super buff, and have a cool tattoo or something. So when you're sending your clients to look at these pictures, or when you're putting together a sequence for your clients, when somebody that's already nervous about doing yoga is looking at these images, they're gonna feel like they don't belong there, yoga's not for me. They're not seeing themselves in the imagery that we're putting out there. And so it's a response to that culture, the culture of Yoga Journal and that kind of imagery that's been going on for a while, the social media posts of Instagram and just appearing flawless in the yoga world. Change is happening, things are getting better, and this is just part of that. It's just something small, and it's going to take some time. So that's why at first we thought we'll just do a few photo shoots, but now I want to just keep doing it because we just need to keep putting the images out there. So there's more images of everybody's body than just the flawless, perfectly achieved yoga postures. So this is the project, this is the beginnings, and then there's also a storytelling piece to it. When people hear other people's journey, like the stories that Betsy and I shared, when you hear about someone else's relationship with their body, it helps you kind of sit in your own relationship with your body. And and be grateful for where you're coming from with your body. So these guys are going to share their stories. Akira, you're going to go first. Just short. So these guys were part of the project, and they're going to share their story of their body and their relationship with yoga. Can we borrow that microphone, Katie?
Let me get your slide up, because there's a great photo of him. I'll just show you a couple more of these. So these are all photos. And like Sarah said, if you feel inspired by this and you want to be a part of it, it's an ongoing project.
Yes.
And
we'll get you the information.
All right, so here's Akira.
Hello. So my background with yoga, so I started off as an athlete in high school, and I did track and football, and that's like the culture where you come from, where you got to be jacked, you got to be as big as possible to like be the image of masculinity. And so in college, they offered free yoga classes, so I just started going as a way of increasing my flexibility. But then I had this moment of like tranquility in Shavasana during the practice at one point, and it was the first time I've ever like not had thoughts in my head, and that was amazing to me. Because like I have ADD, I'm always scattered all over the place. We're in the Western culture where like, go, 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 and just being able to just be and be still was something that was very calming, and it felt right. So then I stayed and pursued yoga as a way of getting mind-body connection. And then that expressed itself as looking at the body as an instrument versus a tool, and allowing the function of the body to precede the form versus the other way around. Because if you are focused on the function of what you're doing, then that gives you, as a result of consequences, the form that you would like. And yeah, so I came at first with my body as a really vain, like I need to look this certain way. I need to have that six-pack abs. I need to like be as buff as possible. But now it's just like, what can I do with it? Like, it doesn't matter if I can bench press 255 pounds or whatever arbitrary number is out there. But yeah, so now it's all about the function. How do I feel in my body? And I just want to end with saying that beauty is skin deep, but love penetrates to the source.
Thanks, Akira.
Hello.
This is Kelly.
I was wondering if you were going to do that. We did this so that I didn't have to take my clothes off up here. So my name is Kelly. I am originally from Scottsdale, Arizona. Live here in Cedar Rapids. Went to Cornell College in Iowa, Mount Vernon, Iowa. Obviously, we're here. And a part of my process, I was once really large, 265. For me, that was a large structure. Here's me in my varsity. I was 15 in this photo. And you can just tell by the way people are spaced from me, I take up quite a bit of space, quite a bit more than I do now. And I grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is the plastic surgery capital of the world. So we're trendsetters, right? Perky and whatever you need. Not as you are, but as you need. And so I come from a space of dreaming who you are and letting that be your truth, but not ever acknowledging actual truth, right? So getting away from what you can feel, right? What that thing that we're looking for in yoga, which is the perception of yourself, your coin, your compass. And so this posture, for me, photos are like a concept of you in time. We're always changing, light's always changing. You know, if this were brighter, if this were darker, if, you know what I mean. We're always changing. And so photos capture me in time. The other thing that I think too on this topic is clothing. To me, to be free is to have nothing that you have to identify with. Nothing outside of yourself. To be free is to have the strength to be naked, to be nude, to not be bound. And to have that freedom is absolute privilege. And that's what I think we're working towards, is whatever capacity you need to be nude, to be free, not to be sexual. Naked is not, this is like a tree. This is like an ant, you know? That's, if you think a tree is sexy, you're gonna be like, damn, tree, right? So that's you, that's not me. So this is my tree, this is my posture, it's an angle. It's wrists and elbows and armpits, and it's not very much, right? And it's everything. So that's where I think we need to get to. And the way I got through that was being really big and having braces and being trans, because I can't talk about that. I'm transgender. So trans to me means I embody both the arrow of masculine, the drive, the desire to create, the intensity, that's masculine to me. This is energy. We're talking about principles of energy. That's masculine. I embody that. I have that. It flows from me. I can do that. I do property services, ladders all day, power washers, muscles, man, right? That's asserting myself on the world, masculine. I have that. I have a womb. I have tears. I hold pain. I love. I connect. That's feminine. I have that too. So I am transgender, and I have masculine, and I have feminine, and this is what it looks like, naked, like a tree. It's pretty simple. It's pretty cool. Sometimes I need to go pee somewhere. That's the conversation we're having, right? Where do I sit when we separate us into genders? Who am I? When you are the one who has to say who I am, right? Not who I am. So that's where I get to.
Thanks, Kelly.
Wait, I'm not done yet. Sorry, I wrote some things. I know you said 5 minutes, but I didn't practice 5 minutes. So I wrote something on the way here, sitting with my partner. And by the way, I have a lot of gratitude for the people who I've come to know who make space for me, for me to be allowed to be here and have a mic. And to be here, I was free. It's all free for me. I don't have, I can't afford it. So like what you give to people who can't afford it, that's me. That's me right here. So thank you. That's the feminine too right there. And the masculine to say it. It's called Pun Intended. I am shy of many things, afraid to say what I see. I am shy, but I don't get to be. I am but a teardrop of space without the words to protect me. Do you understand? Can you see me? The truth that remains, pounded out persistence. The light you can't break that continues to shatter. A whittled fire you can't tame, a fire that takes a home, that takes a family. The insistence on me. There is a war that is tired of the fight. Where there is winning, there's nothing not won. So pun intended. And then to share with you, I had writing come out of child's pose, because I'm learning to be a teacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm just me, as they. And they, in THAY, is teacher. So I'm becoming they and them. So in my child's pose, this is what came out for me. And I'm not a writer. I was an athlete. I was a jock, total stonehead, had no feelings, no thoughts. This is all coming out of that. So we're dynamic. We come to know ourselves. For some of us barely getting through this, I'm here, me too. Notice how strong we are. This is in child's pose. Notice how strong we are. In some ways, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm past that. My legs barely rest. They're getting stronger. And if my soul at my feet elevates, my mind has something to say. So I embrace that too. And there, too, my mind can rest. There's no good way to feel in a world that's dying and for sale. Meanwhile, it's me I'm most afraid of, sharing me with you, our gentle nature at stake here. Outside, designed reality, a universe of worlds, within, throughout, all with similar needs, all at risk of persecution or never being identified in a world separated by labels. Life and connecting truth no longer noticed, and child pose. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you both.
I got my photo, 15-year-old self.
So yeah, that's the project. The project is sharing our stories with one another and relating and accepting one another. So like I said before, it's just a small step, but it's like in the right direction and it's ongoing. So please join us sometime.
So we have two more things that we want to just briefly talk about, and then we're going to end on in a way to, again, put us back in our bodies. So we want to acknowledge that the yoga culture needs to improve. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the beautiful things behind Sarah's project, is that it's authentic, real photos of real people, right? And the yoga industry has definitely co-opted what a yogi looks like. So if you get a Yoga Journal magazine, again, it's usually a very well-coiffed, thin, fit person, and yet yoga is for every body shape, size, gender, age. And so we are both really committed to trying to help change. So maybe even you in this room have at times thought, like, I'd like to try yoga, but I'm not going to belong, or I'm kind of too nervous to go into a studio. Those people aren't my people. We are seeing some things changing. We're seeing more men. Usually it's like a 98% of the people there are women, and more men are starting to show up, which is exciting. Both Sarah and I at our studio, so Sarah's studio is in Cedar Rapids, and my studio is like 20 steps away in the Plaza Towers, just one floor up, Heartland Yoga. And we both hold LGBTQ classes. So, and they're free classes. So ours is every Saturday at 11. Yours is?
The last Sunday of every month.
The last Sunday of every month. We also realize that we need to reach our yoga out into the community because there's lots of marginalized groups that even if you offer free yoga, they're still not going to come to your space. So we're trying to figure out ways to get yoga out into communities and neighborhoods where it can benefit, because we both know the power of it. Several of our teachers are working in the prison in Coralville, which is lots of interesting stories and really making some big impact on people. And then, of course, working with trauma, too, because trauma, if you have trauma in your body, it really is scary to go into the body because the trauma lies in the body. So there's a sort of area of yoga in terms of helping people with trauma. And Sarah, are there other things you want to add about just how our yoga culture needs to change?
Well, I do also like to talk about, a lot of people just visualize the postures, the asana, when you talk about yoga, and it's not all physical movement. It's a philosophy. And so what we did earlier when we stood and got into our bodies, that's yoga. So that's another kind of myth that we need to get through to people, is that it's not all the physicality. You don't have to go in flexible or strong. It's about learning to connect the mind and body. And it's about being in your body and being grateful for it. And then if you choose to do the postures, if you choose to take a class like that, then you build your strengths and things like that. But I always want to tell people it's not all about flexibility and strength and moving your body. It's about, what you're doing with your mind and your body together. So we're going to do
we have actually about 10 minutes, and so we have about 5 minutes for questions or comments. Does anyone have any questions or comments for us before we? Yeah. Anyone have anything that they're wondering about, whether it's about yoga or bodies or interoception or embodiment or anything we've talked about?
Anybody got a short, quick body story to share?
I just had a question about, what about, that's good.
No, they're taping it, so we want to get. Yeah. But the library takes everything that happens in these rooms.
Do you have any information about perhaps using yoga for people with mental health issues?
Yeah, that's my specialty area, so you came to the right place. So I'm actually writing a book on it that'll come out next year, but all of my work is combining Western psychology and the Eastern philosophies of yoga. And there is, again, about a decade's worth of science now showing that yoga reduces anxiety, it reduces depression, it's good for post-traumatic stress disorder. Even schizophrenia shows a reduction in symptoms when people are doing yoga. And these changes happen as quickly as 8 weeks. So the power of all these studies is that it's happening quite quickly for people, the shifting and the changes. I offer an 8-week course every year called Remind, and it's using the tools of yoga to enhance our mental health, our mental well-being. And we focus on techniques and tools for anxiety, for depression. So yes, there's a lot of stuff out there, and you can check out my website, Dr. Yoga Mama, which has more information and trainings. Yeah, it's all over here. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for being here. I was just wondering if you live in a chronically ill body or like a disabled body, what sort of suggestions do you have for adjusting? Because like if you try to do some of those stretchy poses and your joints dislocate, it's not really a good match.
Absolutely.
So whatever you have to say about that, I'd like to hear.
Go for it.
So you would just want to work closely with a yoga teacher that you trust, one that you find and you feel good connection with. And if it is like hyperexpansive joints, then you would want to work on strengthening. And you would probably want to work one-on-one with a yoga teacher at first. And after we work through this project and get this project rolling, one of my goals for next year is to actually work with a physical therapist and work with people that have hypermobile joint disorders, because I'm so curious about it and I want to learn more about it. If you go to a regular yoga class, especially a faster paced one, you could really get injured if you have any hypermobility. So I think yoga is really good for people with conditions like that because it can help you de-stress, it can help your tissues relax, and it can help you sleep better at night. There's a lot of benefits, but you really need to work closely one-on-one at first and find the right yoga teacher for you. Yeah.
And Sarah brought up another great point about yoga. We think of yoga as downward-facing dog, right? There's 8 limbs to yoga, and only one of them is physical practice. So there's so many other aspects of yoga that can be so beneficial. Breath work, meditation is why we do asana. We do the asana to open the body so you can sit in meditation. So we think the asana, the practice, is like the end goal. Well, actually, the end goal is meditation. And we do all the yoga so that the body can sit in meditation. So those are techniques that anyone can do. So that would be my encouragement, to explore that there are these other limbs of yoga that show similar benefit. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think of yoga as like a health system where it's integrating, because to me yoga is also, oh, nice, thank you. I was saying, this reminds me that yoga is a health system. It's like a part of every system that we do. If you're going to take medication, part of that participating in your body is your breath. Part of that is the nutrients you take in. Part of that is allowing circulation, so movement and flow, rest. So all these things. So yoga really never stops. It's integrating your real life, like the life that you feel like is a have to, into mindfulness practice, how to be well, wellness, living now, life, yoga.
Great. So we're going to hand around a card, and I'd like to end today with just actually very brief meditation. It'll be about 5 minutes. And we're going to work with the Ho'oponopono prayer. Has anyone ever heard of this, the Ho'oponopono prayer? It comes out of the Hawaiian tradition. So it's actually not out of the Vedic yogic tradition. But the reason I think this is such a powerful meditation to end on is that the Ho'oponopono prayer is a prayer of reconciliation. And so for most of us, we have to do some reconciliation work with our bodies because we have numbed them out. We have sort of zipped out of them. We haven't been present in them. And so these 4 phrases are actually really quite powerful to repeat. So this would be something we're going to work with here for just a couple moments in meditation. But it would be something that you could keep in your car, you could keep on your dash, you could keep on your mirror. And the idea is a constant, silent, internal repetition of these 4 phrases, all right? So take a good seat. And so what I mean by that is if your legs are crossed, uncross your legs. Maybe scoot forward on your chair so your feet are actually firmly on the earth. You can place your hands just gently on your lap. And you might even bring your thumb and your pointer finger to lightly touch, palms facing down. With meditation, we want a nice, tall, erect spine. So just feel your low back slightly draw in and up, extending up through the crown of the head. And if you're comfortable, gently allowing the eyes to close. Certainly if that creates anxiety for you, just keep the eyes open and your gaze nice and soft down towards the floor. So with all the different practices of yoga, the very first foundational step is to get into the body, which has really been the point of this whole discussion today, is we move our attention and awareness into the body. So see if you can become aware of your feet, making contact with the earth. Let your awareness move up through your ankles and your knees as you now allow your pelvis to settle into the chair, the buttocks unclenching, outer hips relaxing. Almost experiencing a weightiness in the pelvis as it descends and settles into the chair. And then out of this sense of groundedness in the feet, the pelvis, now on your next inhale, feel your spine grow a little bit taller. So there's some lightness through the spine. And it's almost as if your head is just floating at the top of the spine. Soft face, unclenching the jaw, letting the forehead soften, the temples soften. As you find yourself more present in the body, begin to observe your natural breath rhythm, breathing in and breathing out. And as you stay connected to the body, we will now give the body this affirmation of reconciliation. So no matter what your relationship is to your body right now, we're extending reconciliation, kindness, compassion towards the body. So as you stay with your body, on this next inhale, silently and internally repeat to yourself, I love you. As you exhale, I'm sorry. On this next inhale, reminding your body, please forgive me. And exhale, thank you. So we'll do this a couple more times. As you inhale, silently repeating, I love you. Exhale, I'm sorry. Inhale, please forgive me. Exhale, thank you. And then just bringing your hands together so the palms gently touch right in front of your heart. You might even make a commitment to yourself in this moment that you work towards greater kindness and acceptance and a willingness to be more present in the body. Bowing towards your hands and your heart. You can release your hands, lift your head, and open your eyes. So thank you all for coming today. Thanks for your presence and for being in your bodies. And keep your light on by staying in your body today. All right. Be well. Thank you.